Now, on those student time sheets, they were just directly printed from a computer. I never signed those individually.
Are you not aware as the school registrar that you are statutorily required to sign off on student records as well as the student is statutorily required to sign off on those records?
No.
I'm sorry?
No,
Are you directing your attention on the binder to exhibit A, page 2? Let me know when you're there.
which one again?
Exhibit A, page 2. You have an explanation as to why the time entry is missed for April 6, 2023 for Tiffany Lee's records? Well, exhibit A, page 2.
Yeah, I just try to see the name of Tiffany Lee, okay. No, my say is that she punched in and left, so
And do you think that this is acceptable as part of her student time records?
no,
But you failed to review this, did you not?
if I get information showing that she wasn't there during that time, definitely this is not acceptable information. That's not accurate reflection of her time.
But again, as a school registrar, you failed to review this, you failed to review her time record.
I wasn't know she was not there.
But you don't feel that you have a duty to review her time records because in the off chance that you could have caught this missed time?
But I did not know that she was not present until this document was delivered. So there's nothing really triggered a review. And I don't think that she even close to graduation, so I don't know what what we're gonna review it.
So does Ability not have a process where you as the school registrar review all student documentation before it is submitted officially to board compliance?
Yes, we do. We do review documentation with the student, with the instructor before we submit them.
So then if you review documents, then how come this missed time punch?
We never submitted this document.
Let's turn to exhibit J, page 1.
Yeah, I'm here.
Let me know, are you there?
Yep.
All right, we see final time cards that are identical. We also see that on pages 1, 2, all the way through 6. But we also don't see your signature on any of these time cards, is that correct?
That's correct.
And that's because you didn't review these time cards, is that correct?
I do not recall. I did review some of those time cards. Yes, I did review when they graduated.
And so you reviewed the time cards, but you didn't sign off?
No, I did not. I believe the instructor and the student will sign those time cards was sufficient.
And with reviewing these time cards is on page 1 through 6 of exhibit J, you didn't find it odd that these time cards are exactly identical for approximately 1, 2, 3. For approximately 12 students, you have almost identical time entries.
Nope, I didn't see that was an issue. I think they all came in the same classes at the same time. We had an instructor at that time, is sitting at the back of the classroom monitoring students' attendance. So that would be the best monitoring system. And other than, I can't see if there is any better way to ensure students were attending the school.
Do you believe you have a duty to supervise your instructors?
Yes,
And do you believe that you have adequately supervised your instructors as the school registrar?
I don't know how to answer that question, believe it or not. I believe, yes, I did. I did.
Still on exhibit J, I want you to turn to pages 7 and 8. Let me know when you're there.
J,
Exhibit J, pages 7 and 8.
7 and 8. Okay, we're on 8.
We see final time cards not completing 600 hours. But we also don't see your signature on any of these time cards, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you have an explanation as to why?
No,
We also see time cards not completing, again, 6 hours. Do you have an explanation as to why you did not address that or even notify the board of this issue prior to submission?
the instructor would have explained to me why they have completed hours, why they have, how they completed 600 hours. I believe they all complete 600 hours. Now,
But these aren't amounting to 600 hours. Do you have an
Yeah.
explanation as to why?
these may not be the completed record of their timesheets.
But these were submitted for students. But these were collected.
I do not believe they were submitted or they're part of the application.
That's your testimony.
That's not, yeah, no, that's not submitted for application review. That could be partial records that were before they graduated. Because these are, I'm
In
sorry,
the event that the board might have received partial records, you don't feel that you have a duty as a school registrar to ensure to supplement those records so that the board had a complete picture of all the student records?
I would not have a knowledge that this board received incomplete record. The board, unless the board tells me about it.
So how, do you ever at all, on your own accord, as a school registrar, review these records?
Yes,
How often do you review these records?
well, when they graduate, I will have to go through with those records with an instructor.
Do you understand that a bulk of these records that are submitted are for students? Let's go to Exhibit I. Let's go to Exhibit I, page 11. So, right. Connie Wright was a student that was graduated and submitted for final review by our licensing department for final testing. This was submitted as part of her packet. Now, you said that you previously reviewed all of the students' records before they go for graduation. So how did this pass your review?
I'm sorry, this was not submitted as her application packet. It was not, I repeat, sorry. I don't know who submitted, the student submitted. Or, now I remember in Connie, Miss Wright's situation, we were told by the students, not by the board, that the board requires the school to send in the transcripts, attendance records. So we sent in our attendance records, which was in electronic format at that time. This is the old form that was used in 2021 that was ruled out by the board that we no longer use. I don't know where this one was submitted and who submitted it.
I want to direct you to Exhibit I, page 17. Let me know when you're there.
Here,
All right, so here we have an email from Trisha James
correct.
to testing.
Mhm.
And included is clocked hours, Connie Wright. Now, granted, these are, they make reference to her hours.
Mhm.
So if your instructors are submitting documentation that this student is ready, to support that this student is ready for final testing, are you saying that you're not aware of that?
I'm totally aware of it. I supplied this file to Ms. Tricia Faust to be sent to the board.
So I just want to be clear. Do you supply the records for?
I supplied this particular,
Question. Do you supply the records to the instructor, in this case, Trisha, for records ultimately to be determined by licensing for approval? Or do you have no idea how the records, how the board is in access of these records?
I'm sorry, I rephrase what I said earlier. It's not I supplied this record, I supplied a scan form of these records to Ms. Tricia Faust to be emailed to the board that time, because we had a request came back from the student asking for this to be sent to the board.
So you submit a form, you don't submit the student's records to Tricia? Is that your testimony?
No, this is something that I scan off the student record because I had direct access to the scanner at the time, so it's easier for me to make a scan, and I give those documents back to Tricia and I say, hey, here's an electronic form, go ahead and send it in.
So the process is you review the records and you scan and submit that to the instructor, and then the instructor submits that to board licensing. Is
I
that
do not,
correct?
I do not scan those documents until they're being requested. There's no reason to scan it, that we have it in paper form.
So we saw on Exhibit H that we requested a bulk of those records dating back from March until May. Who scanned those records?
I did.
Okay, and so are you also aware that a bulk of these records here in this binder are from that May?
I can tell you what is exactly in that PDF file is the computer printed out of her timekeeping detailed record from the day one that she was in school until the day she graduated. And also that has her transcript in that file. Nothing else. I still have that file on my computer.
And as a school registrar, again, so are you saying that you bear no responsibility for what your teachers, for what teachers for ability scan to board compliance? Do you bear zero responsibility in that?
Would you say it again?
Is it your testimony that you bear zero responsibility in what's scanned from ability school teachers to board compliance?
It is, I do have responsibility because I scanned those documents and asked Tricia to send in to the board. I personally scanned those documents. No mistake. I still remember what's in the document. Clearly.
You please turn to Exhibit J, page 9.
I'm here.
Now here we see the student record submitted for graduated student May containing only a blank time card. But did you review May Lou's records prior to submission to the board?
Yes.
And so we have only this blank card submitted for May Lou. Do you have an explanation as to?
That's not correct. We submitted May Lou's time sheets, which is complete. That counts every day her punch from the day she started until the day she finished, and her transcript.
Why do we have a blank card?
I have no idea. We never submitted this form unless the student submitted. I don't think the student submitted that form. That form was never, ever submitted.
So why did you not supplement with the correct?
We didn't even know the board had that form. And this is a form, like I said, we visited this form.
So for student May Lou, is your testimony that all the documents that contain her hours are correct, but anything that is blank, that's not something you submitted?
We never submitted blank forms. I was surprised until I see this package. And to just explain more clearly, if you allow me,
All right.
this particular form was used in the old timekeeping system. Before we had electronic time clock, we had a punch card. This is the form that on a weekly basis that the instructor, the timekeeping instructor used to calculate their weekly hours. They do the calculation on that particular form. And supposed to have, in the old days, they have like probably weekly form for each student. But when we had electronic records, all is all replaced by the calculation of the computer. The instructor doesn't have to do this because the instructor is making a lot of errors on it. For example, you clock in 10:12 until 10:30. So that on the time punch card, it shows 0.18. Is that 0.18 hours? No, that's 18 minutes. 18 minutes is not 0.18 hours. So that mistake is to be eliminated by using electronic system. Though those forms not used after mid-2022.
Why does Ability not have a process where when any time records are requested, are requested by the board? the records are complete and current at the time that they're provided to the board. Because if you turn on Exhibit I, page 55.
Not here. That's the same record which the earlier page.
Right. Well, why is there not a process in place to ensure that records are accurately updated as the student completes, as the student completes each subject?
They were updated accurately on the time clock, which is a computerized system, the database kept on a computer. We do print them out. I usually would print 2 copies, one for the student to keep, so they have a record showing where, what they have done throughout a time. They know I can go back and check their hours. And another one is given to the instructor, put in the student file. And the one in the student file was scanned, therefore, to be submitted to the board.
But why is it not already in the file upon request?
That was not included in the file. I didn't make this file. And we did not submit this form, by all means.
Get it. And so we went through a lot of these records ad nauseum, but not just testimony provided on behalf of the board, but also with the respondent. So just as our major takeaway, do you believe as a school registrar that these records are reliable?
They are reliable. Factor in, you add in those blank sheets that are not being counted as a student progress or an incomplete records from before student graduated. I saw one of a student record was taken 2 months before student graduated. If you want me to point to that, I can point it to. It was a Suipa Konsowan. Her record was taken 2 months before her graduation. Of course, it was incomplete. She didn't complete all the chapters. But at the end, she did complete the chapters. And the instructor, when Ms. Suipa came back with a complaint from the board and then went back to Ms. Trisha Faust, Ms. Trisha was furious about the situation because she did a very careful job in making sure that the student did all the work and completed all the work and the exams and did all the paperwork. And yet those completed paperwork did not show to her application, but it's an incomplete one was shown on application, which is not submitted by the instructor.
If records of the student file were not complete, then why didn't you inform the board whether it was the initial production back in, as requested in the May email, or even after the mass collection? Why didn't you or Mr. O'Hare or any representative of Ability inform the board that the board might be in possession of incomplete records if they were in fact incomplete?
That's a perfect question. I mean, the question is, we were never told that that board had a possession of incomplete and inaccurate application. We did not know these things were considered in the application.
So you don't find anything problematic with these records whatsoever? Okay. I have no further questions at this time.
John, you have some, go ahead.
Yes, I have a couple questions for you. And I'll try to be brief, but I think there's like 5, so bear with me, okay? So can I please reference exhibit I-011 and I-012, as well as the one that we just finished off on, exhibit I-055, and you can stay on any of these. They're all very, very similar. My questions surrounding these are, first, did you have a chance to review this binder prior to coming in today?
Yes,
Okay, awesome. And then, do you have an updated version of these blank documents?
no, these documents, let's say I-11,
Yeah.
I-12, not being used because we have electronic system. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about it differently. I-11 is the one that I talked earlier, that the manual keeping a time
Okay,
by instructor, they're not being used anymore, and we use electronic system. So those forms are defunct, so they're not being used. And then they will put in student file just as kind of a filler, like a tradition that we had, but it's not being used at all.
okay. Okay, you keep saying that you have a different time system. Are you aware that this is not a time sheet? This is how you keep track of each hours that you're required to do for each subject? Do you have something similar to this other than?
Curriculum card.
I'm so sorry, other than this time card where it states, like similar to exhibit I-028 where it states time in and time out. Do you have something else that shows how many hours the students are doing in theory? How many hours the students are doing in makeup application? How many hours they're doing in hair removal? Would that be exhibit 012?
I'm not sure. I need to refer those questions to the instructors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you don't have something that keeps track of, to your knowledge, keeps track of how many hours each student is doing in each one of those subjects? Would that be why exhibit I-012 is blank then? Because this is something that you're.
I-012, we should have those forms. We should have those forms showing each chapter, the grade and date, and the scores.
Okay, and there's nothing like in addition to like how many hours that student was present in a course that covered hair removal?
I'm not
Okay.
sure about that.
Do you have any updated documents for exhibit exhibit I-012? Because right now all we have is this blank one. We don't have any,
I believe so, yeah.
you do? Do we have?
I do
we
not
have that present?
I
Did you
have-
bring that with you today?
I do not have.
No, okay. All right, thank you. I think that's all for that. And then my next question would be if we could go to I-005. So just a couple of pages back. Yes. And this would be speaking to your expertise in being a resident of the Republic of China. So I would be interested in just, hearing your knowledge on this, but you stated that they call school a little differently over there, which obviously is a different country. That makes a lot of sense. What would high school be considered? If middle school is from 7 to 12, what would they consider high school?
There's no high school. High school is a portion of that middle school.
Okay,
Yeah,
so,
it's just in this country, we call them junior high and high school, but in that country, they just all call it middle school.
okay.
After middle school is a college.
Okay, thank you. So at any point in time, would the Republic of China refer to the school years after middle school interchangeably as high school? Or would that just not happen because high school doesn't exist over there?
Middle school contains the high school. So, middle school contains the high school in our concept,
Okay,
but middle school teaches grade from 7th grade to 12th grade.
okay, but there's not it's not called middle or high school though. It's just called
Most of them are
like
called
middle school
yeah.
or senior middle school.
Exactly.
Right, okay. So can you please explain maybe why we're seeing the words high school written on this document from the translation? If it's not really something that is
So,
in the Republic of China?
yeah, well, People's Republic of China, this Republic of China is called Taiwan, so we don't want to confuse that.
Oh, sorry.
We'll get attacked for that. So I can see page I-006. There's a big round red stamp on the lower right corner.
Yeah,
It says Neijiang City #2 Middle School. On the upper left, the title of that certificate says Sichuan Province Common High School Diploma Certificate. So they call a certificate as a high school certificate, but issued by this school name, middle school.
okay.
So
Okay, thank you.
I mean, it's a common knowledge over there, but
Yeah.
I guess this
Yeah,
is very
it's different.
Yeah.
Thank you for,
different.
responding to that. I appreciate that. And then my next question would be, could you tell us more in depthly what your protocol is or your system, so to speak, for going over these time cards? Is it something that you only do once the student is petitioning to take their licensing through the state board? Or do you do that several times a year? Do you do that weekly?
We do a
You
week.
Talk it, you do it
Yeah,
weekly.
we do weekly. So every Monday, usually we'll print out the instructor, either instructor or myself will print out their previous week's detailed attendance record and have them checked by the students and instructor. If there is discrepancy, usually there are some, well, not every week, but student would come to me and say, hey, here's a record showing me the here, but it's not on the clock system. So could you verify that and put it in? So if there is instructor's signature and student signature that both verify they did attendance And that indeed it was not registered on the computer system, I will add them on.
Okay, and could you reiterate who sits in on those meetings or sessions with you? It's you, I think you said the instructor and then the individual
Student.
student as well?
Yeah.
So you meet with the students weekly on that?
No, unless they have a problem with that time. If they think everything's correct, then it's okay.
So it's just you and the instructor unless there's a discrepancy and then the student's brought in?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then my final question, I think is no, two more, sorry. You mentioned, Mr. Kennedy did ask you, but I apologize, I missed it. Could you restate how many students that you have enrolled at Ability?
Currently,
Mhm.
I do not know the exact number. So enrolled, or, we have students who are enrolled, but are not actually participating.
Oh, okay,
They just kind of disappeared.
okay,
But for active students, we're looking at probably around a dozen.
okay. Okay, thank you. And then, if we can go to Exhibit I 203, I'll give you a minute for that one. Again, I apologize, this is just probably redundant, but I do want to just chat about the time cards again,
Yes.
sorry. Of course, the date on this is the 7th of July, 2023. And as we can see here, we do have the morning session, it looks like, because it does look like the students began clocking in around 8:30.
Correct.
Or 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'm sorry. And it does appear that everyone pretty much clocked out about the same time between 11:35 and 11:40,
Receive.
probably for lunch, right? Do we know why there's no sign-ins for the afternoon session?
Yeah, that's a question when I got this, that's a question I asked the instructor. Actually, the instructor approached me when she saw this and she was like, this can't be right. We have a complete sign-in sheet. Well, like I said, this is handwritten, but we also have a computer clock-in sheet showing the afternoon hours, not edited, not added in later. And we have social media post of November 11th PM practical session. Some students like to do that, they do that. And we happen to have those videos online. And we have the same thing for July 12th, same thing. So our take is that maybe there is kind of mix up in the record. This was taken during lunch hour on the 11th of July, but it kind of mixed up to be 12th because the inspector were there both days. I'm not saying they tried to do it on purpose, they just kind of mixed up. Because we do have a record showing that they showed up in the afternoon.
In the afternoon?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one has to be
Okay.
taken logically before the afternoon session of July 11th.
Right, and this, again, just to reiterate this, beat the dead horse, this is your secondary.
Exactly. So after, June 16th, after we reopened, we have done a pretty good job. And I'm saying I don't want to take credit for it. Mr. O'Hara implemented this and Ms. Can and Ms. Faust are the one who are really working with the student, try to enforce on this because really, I can't do much. I mean, when a student walks out, sneak out, I can't catch him, putting a handcuff and chain him to the chair. But the instructors are there every minute and they're doing an incredible job in teaching and monitoring students.
And these time cards are kept by the instructors?
Which time card?
I'm sorry, the one that we're looking at and the,
Handwriting ones?
yes, the backup one.
Yeah, they were being monitored and signed by the instructors.
And when you received the binder, was this the first time that you had seen this document where the afternoon session was not filled in?
Exactly. This is the first time I see partial.
Okay,
This is what we see.
okay. So what is the protocol for the backup to make sure and ensure that this is being done properly? Because-
Backup to this backup?
Because, well, right? How many backups do you want? No, sorry, let me rephrase that. Do you have a system just to make sure that like this part goes right? Like how you meet every Monday to make sure the hours are right? What's the system for making sure that this
Well,
is right?
The one we make sure this is right because we have instructors sitting in front of a classroom. We have all the students in the classroom watching other people doing it. I'm saying multiple eyes. This is what we need the public eyes to make sure this is correct. Because otherwise, I don't know.
Okay. And then early on in when you first sat down, we were talking about the students receiving their denial letters, from the board. And am I incorrect that I heard you say that the students did reach out to the board to inquire why? Is that
That's
what
what
you
they told me, because we have a student and student husband, came in multiple times, talked to me, asking what to do. I asked him, well, go back to the office and ask exact reasons, see if you can correct those reasons, or we can help you to correct those reasons. So, maybe you can ask some of those members, I mean, if they did, they told me they did, and if they lied, then I wouldn't be surprised, but. Then we later had a meeting with Mr. Kennedy and also the council and Mr. McDonald at the board office discussing that issue. The issue, we were told that those were individual students' problem and not related to the school. So their individual application package was not able to be verified. That's why they have to refer to the board. If they ask nicely, we might tell them what to do, but if they don't, they just go to the board.
Mhm. Okay, all right, so, to be clear, you did have a meeting with the board as far as,
Yeah, with
as far as what was going on.
Mr. McDonald.
Okay.
And the council member from AG.
Okay. That's all the questions. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
It's Board Member Douglas. I want to piggyback off what O'Brien's asked you earlier about hours that are given to students as they complete a certain like theory or makeup. I wanted to ask Sophia, the 516, first time opening the books. So how was your students doing theory? You know, every day if they didn't have no books to go by.
Like I said, to my observation, the instructor, Sophia, was writing all the outlines from the book on the board with Chinese. Oh, she was writing all the time during the class, a lot, and writing and talking and reading. So I was there, I saw a few times. I said, like, wow, that's a lot of writing. Don't you feel that it's hurting your wrist? But he said, no, that's the only way to get students' attention. You write and have them copy down in a notebook.
And who oversees Sophia or the instructors?
I do, and Mr. O'Hara does as well.
Okay. And also, the allegations that are brought upon your school that you oversee, have all those been corrected and have State Board been out there to sign off on that?
You mean the citations?
Yes.
Citations, we have corrected all the citations, yes. Now, in terms of the equipment, we have completed the list of equipment, even though we were taken off of the advanced aesthetics list, so we were not able to teach those. The time we were teaching, we were only teaching laser class, so we thought we only needed laser equipment to teach the class. We're not teaching any other equipment. So we have corrected all those.
Okay, so State Board has signed off on all of those?
I don't know about sign off. No, I'm sorry, I don't.
Stating that you corrected everything that you needed to do?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any questions from the north? Okay. we can
No
sit down.
questions at this time.
You can sit down. Thank you.
Nothing further. Thank you, Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Just see how I will react to this.
Okay.
We'll come back to this further.
Okay, yeah. Should we do a 15-minute break this time so everyone has an opportunity to use the restroom? All right, let's meet back here. It is 3:44 PM. Let's meet back here at 4 PM sharp, please.
Just to make sure.
Everyone here? Yeah. I think Jennifer's here, yeah, and then is Bill in? Yeah, there's Bill. Okay, cool. All right, if we're all in, I know it's a little early, about 4 minutes, but let's get started. The time is 3:56. Welcome back to the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology's board meeting. We're gonna proceed with the closing statements at this time. Doug Harris, would you proceed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And members of the board, I want to thank you also just for time and the dedication that you made towards this was the evidence of not only just the petitioner's case in chief, but also the respondent's case in chief. As we know, it was quite extensive and quite longer than our more usual meetings, so we greatly appreciate that. Now, earlier during my opening statement, I mentioned quite a number of issues that we noted with Ability School. And the first thing that I started off with in reminding the board was our burden. We had a burden to prove every allegation of fact, outline allegations of facts numbers 1 through 17, and as well as every violation of law by preponderance of the evidence. And as a reminder, what we mean by preponderance of the evidence is that 51%. Is it more likely than not that the allegations of fact are true? Is it more likely than not that the alleged violations of law are true? And after hearing the testimony, as well as even after hearing the testimonies provided by respondents' case in chief, petitioner has maintained that burden, and more importantly, exceeded that burden. So let's start off with what we reviewed during the hearing today. The first was on the issue regarding Ability's alleged failure to provide at least one textbook to a student during class instruction. Now, if you can recall, pursuant to NAC 644A603, every student is required to provide at least one textbook per student to support instruction in the school. Recall what you heard today. You heard the testimony of Ms. Huggins, as well as you were provided Exhibit C, establishing that prior to the May 16, 2023 inspection, textbooks for each student were not provided for each student. We also heard, you also heard testimony of students using textbooks only after the May 16, 2023 inspection. Additionally, we heard some testimony from the respondent in pertaining to the creation of a library, and that students and respondents purportedly argued that students always had access to the textbooks. But remember, with the multiple inspections that took place up until the May 16 and including the May 16 inspection, if students always had this access to this secret library containing textbooks, then why weren't board compliance directed to that location? That's because there is no secret location where students can retrieve textbooks on their own. And it's because only after the May 16, 2023 inspection were textbooks officially opened for the first time, as you saw Sophia Cupkey opening the textbooks for the first time. So there is, without a doubt, a violation of this regulation entitling respondent to discipline. Next, on the second issue, you heard of Ability's alleged failure to provide test kits to each student in attendance during class instruction. Again, the testimony of Ms. Huggins in Exhibit B establishes that prior to the May 15, 2023 inspection, textbooks for each, test kits for each student were not provided for each student. And even after the May 15, 2023 inspection, if you can recall Ms. Huggins' testimony, she stated that for the subsequent board inspections that did take place, they still yet did not witness students with using those test kits. And as a reminder, as you're already aware, those test kits are required to be used daily. So again, after hearing the facts, the allegations of facts have been established for that, and more importantly, the violation mainly of the regulation NAC 644A603 is established. Now let's move on to the third issue, centering in on Ability's alleged failure to register its students with the board within 45 days of enrollment, and Ability's failure to provide all required documentation to the board upon enrollment. So let's start off with the enrollment issue. We already have the admission. If you see that, if you recall in Exhibit H, we have the admission by Mr. O'Hara, who does confirm that they missed this guideline. Well, it's not a guideline, it's a regulation. And if you're gonna own a business in this field of cosmetology, you need to know, like the back of your hand, regulations and the statutes governing your schools. So they admit to not complying with this regulation, as the students were not enrolled. We're not enrolled within 45 days. So there's no question that they are in violation of, in particular, NAC 644A610. We also see another violation of NAC 644A610 5A in respect to the educational requirement. Now, We went back and forth, as you know, as far as whether the middle school label also includes high school, or if it doesn't. But here's the one thing that cannot be denied. That is their responsibility to clear up any misunderstandings or confusions. If our chief operating officer is reviewing documentation and it says middle school, neither Ability nor any other cosmetology school is afforded or owed the benefit of the doubt that these are in fact documentations coming from a high school and not a middle school. It is the school's responsibility to say, hey, this might say middle school, but I want to ensure you that this is in fact high school. And you have to provide the supporting documentation to establish that we're not possibly considering licensing folks who haven't even who may not have met the minimum educational requirements. Now, is there a possibility that some of these students that we discussed today may have met the minimum educational requirements? There is a possibility. I don't close off the door. That's why we have our petitioning process. They have to provide something supplemental to establish that, one of which that is reliable, that yes, this student has met the minimum educational requirements. And by Ability's failure to having to incorporate in their student files, or even supplement from this extensive time that we have been reviewing Ability's records, any supporting documentation, even upon receipt of the complaint, stating, hey, here's my answer, and here's the attachment with my answer, with showing that this particular student has this. The problem is that they have not supported the student records with proof that they have the 10th grade education. And by not even having any proof, none whatsoever, that the student has the requisite education, they're in violation of NAC 644-A610-5A. Here's the other thing too that I also noticed that was also quite troublesome. A lot of this notion that, well, we would have done X if, or we would have done this if work compliance told us to. We would have submitted this, but they gotta tell me this. We have over 10,000 licensees in the state of Nevada alone. Board compliance cannot be tasked with spoon feeding and babysitting every single licensee. They would get absolutely nothing done. There is a statutory duty for every licensee, especially regarding Ability. If you're going to run a cosmetology school, you have to ensure that you are in compliance with the board statutes. You have to ensure that you are in compliance with the board regulations. Please do not make any misunderstanding. Just because the board compliance takes time out of their busy schedule to give whatever guidance that they can, that is at a courtesy. That has never been at a requirement. We specifically have these statutes and regulations in place so that all licensees are self-regulating themselves to ensure that they are in compliance. So falling on this fallback argument that, oh, if board compliance would have told us we would have done this, is simply an unacceptable excuse. And as a reminder, when it comes to the 45-day, the failure to do the 45-day enrollment, we had Mr. O'Hara's admission that they failed to comply. So there should be no doubt that the allegations of fact have been proven, and more importantly, the violations of law has been proven by the 51% margin of preponderance of the evidence. Now let's move on to the fourth issue. Ability's alleged failure to keep required records showing daily attendance, training, and ensuring that the records are complete and accurate. Now, both Ms. Huggins and Ms. Jackson's testimony establishes this. Recall, we reviewed the extensive record outlined in Exhibit I. Thank you for your patience with that, as well as Exhibit J, demonstrating that Ability has alarmingly failed to comply with this requirement. There's zero justification when the board asks for you to compile your records or submit records or prepare records for a mass collection. And in review of those records, we are seeing empty entries. And more importantly, we're seeing empty entries in the area of aesthetics. This is aesthetics, the aesthetics topics in this recent years for this board is a very sensitive issue. We know the public safety concerns that have been surrounded and the whole debacle that happened with SB 290. And now, unfortunately, we're being thrown with a serious concern right now that we're possibly dealing with folks who are graduated, but we have no proof that they have completed the requisite theory education or even done the requisite practical. More importantly, we saw documentation of their hours. We saw that a lot of them had edited time punches. And again, and we'll discuss that later, but those time punches have not been properly signed off by Mr. O'Hara's representation, signed off by a student, the instructor, as well as our registrar. More importantly, we have a reliability issue when it comes to the records. So a lot of the testimony recently that we heard from the school registrar, he stated, well, we didn't know if that was the issue. If you would have told us, then we would have gone ahead and submitted. Well, we just heard Ms. Jackson's testimony where she's had some records of items information being whited out, dates being not dates, but grades being changed. And so if you see records of grades potentially being changed as well as dates being whited out, now you have a reliability issue. Are you going to get the records that were properly generated at the time that they were, or are you going to get some set of records that are clearly going to be modified to match whatever you need to match? At this point, you have a huge reliability issue when it comes to records coming out of Ability that you cannot trust. Another part, when it comes to the issue of the reliability of these records, from which you heard from both Mr. O'Hara as well as our school registrar, a lot of the blaming of the instructor. Well, the instructor was supposed to do this, or the instructor was supposed to be checking this. Who's overseeing the instructor? You can't put all of the blame on the instructor. And it isn't until they are cornered in the question where who's ultimately responsible for the instructor, and that's when we start getting some statements saying, okay, I am responsible. But there was no accountability in the beginning. So a lot of the blaming of the instructors is also problematic, because is that going to continue to be a reference to excuse when the bottom line is Nathan O'Hara and Mr. Sue are responsible for ensuring that those records are on point. Additionally, we also reviewed records from the time that contained a lot of missing entries for just signatures of students. And so what's also problematic is, are you informing students of their duty to also ensure that their records are accurate? And why aren't you signing off? Why is there not an existing procedure where you review the records prior to submission or prior towards recommendation for graduation and final testing? Why is there not a procedure in place to do the final sign off? Instead, we just keep hearing excuses and shifting the blame onto the instructors. So given the fact that we have received and reviewed records ad nauseum, showing that we have not received reliable records of daily attendance, that Ability has not kept training time for each student, and that Ability has not ensured that the records are current, complete, and accurate. The allegations of fact 100% established have been proven by that 51% margin, or as we would say, the preponderance of the evidence. And more importantly, the violation NAC 644-615-123 has been proven. So next, let's move on to Ability's alleged failure to keep proper time records of the students provided for validation by the board. Now, this is the important part. If the board is requesting records, you don't get to say, well, at the time that you requested records or you collected records, they were incomplete. If you know that the board is collecting records of your school, you, in particular, the school registrar, as well as Nathan O'Hara as a school owner, you have a duty to ensure that those records are complete, because their statutes and regulations are arguing so. And in the event that they're not complete, then to inform Ms. Huggins about it. We saw the email correspondence included in your binder on Exhibit H. They've been going back and forth for several months with any questions or any concerns or issues that they've had with that. So if you provided records, or if you know that records have been collected, you already have a pre-existing relationship with board staff to say, by the way, there's a chance that this records for this student may not be correct, or this timesheet may need to, I may need to send an updated timesheet. We didn't get that. Instead, we got, and we'll explain that later how it's false, we got assurances via email that those records were complete. So as I stated previously, the violation of NAC 644A 615123 is proven. Now on to the next issue. Ability's alleged failure to keep proper time records of his students showing the number of hours completed in each subject of training, and Ability's alleged failure to keep records signed by both the registrar and the student. Now, even after hearing Chair O'Brien's questioning of the school registrar, we still don't know what exactly is this new process. How are you tracking the number of hours that are dedicated to each subject? What is this new procedure that you're implementing? That's still relatively unclear. But one thing that we do know is that they don't have, especially at the time of drafting this complaint, they did not have a viable process. And in fact, it was an unreliable process. The other thing is, what's even more concerning is the deflecting of the school registrar of his duty to the students when we know by regulation that as a school registrar, he as well as the students have a duty to sign off on the student records. So he's not off the hook with that. And by virtue of being the school registrar, the school is not off the hook with that. If you can recall, we reviewed the extensive record outlined in Exhibit I, as well as Exhibit J, demonstrating that Ability has alarmingly failed to comply with this requirement. If you can recall, we saw records from Mei Lu and Connie Wright where blank documents were submitted. There were also blank documents submitted for other students as well. There is no excuse for that. And it's quite alarming because at this juncture right now, we don't know truly in fact what they did. And we're gonna have to, depending on how this board votes, but I imagine there might still be a possible concern as far as, and we'll have to see how it pops up in any petitioning process should the students decide to use that process as to what in fact was completed and was not completed. Should the board have to go through this extensive long process now to have to hear from students determining whether or not they did or did not complete a certain subject, whether or not they were or were not present for a class? No, because Ability has a statutory obligation to ensure that their records and their timekeeping are proper so that the board can have that assurance when cross-referencing their records. And they failed in their duty to do so. Reliability is in fact in question as to whether these students are completing the required hours in each subject. There should be no reason why blank documents are submitted for board review. Moreover, the fact that we have missing signatures from the students and missing signatures from the school registrar lets us know that there's no oversight. There's no check-in process at all. Students come in, we don't know what hours they perform, we don't know what gets done and records get submitted, and there's no double checking or even triple checking to ensure that everything lines up. And unfortunately, we have to get to a circumstance like here in a disciplinary hearing to see which of these records are somewhat reliable or which ones are not. And unfortunately, the bulk of what we're looking at is unreliable. Accordingly, by Ability's failure to keep proper time records of its students, to keep records showing the number of hours the students completed in each subject and in training, and by failing to keep records signed by both the registrar and the student, Ability is in violation of NAC 644A 625 and therefore is warranted disciplinary action. And tying to that, the last issue, Ability allegedly providing false information to the board as to its maintenance, completeness, and accuracy of the students' records. Well, at this juncture, it's no longer alleged. That's just what happened. We do, like, Ability in its emails provided attached as Exhibit H, page 4, if you could recall. Nathan O'Hara said that those records, at least from as provided initially when requested by the board, were complete. And more importantly, Nathan O'Hara also stated that when it comes to time entries, anytime that there's an edited time entry or mispunch, it's edited, and upon being edited, there is an acknowledgement by both the instructor, the student, and the school registrar. We went through several students' records, especially incorporated in Exhibit I, where we still saw missed times entries. And for the ones that were edited, we did not see signatures by the school registrar. We did not see signatures by the teacher, and we did not see we did not see signatures by the student. So They're giving they're giving one side of a story to board compliance as to how they maintain their records. That's false information. When they gave assurance that yes, you have everything that is complete, nothing else is missing, as indicated in the emails attached to Exhibit H, that was also false information. And the board needs to be able to rely on information, especially one of which where they're extending some of its authority to educate new and upcoming licensees in the field of the cosmetology. The board needs to be able to rely that you are going to give it truthful information upon being asked, and truthful information as far as what your process is. And when you give false information, you are subject to violating NAC 644-8871H, which has happened here. So we have established by preponderance of the evidence, again, that 51%, all of the allegations of fact outlined in your complaint for on paragraphs 1 through 17. Accordingly, we request that the board vote that the allegations of fact, paragraphs 1 through 17 have been proven. Moreover, again, petitioner has established by preponderance of the evidence that 51%, that all the violations of law have been established. One by one, we have shown the consistent and persistent issues that Ability has with its student records, the fact that they've made false statements regarding Ability regarding their records and their maintenance process. And more importantly, by failing to have the required acknowledgement, signature acknowledgements as to the student hours from the instructor, the registrar, as well as the teacher. We've established those, and that's established how they're in violation. And let's not forget the textbook situation. We saw textbooks being opened for the very first time on May 16th, and Ability has been open for a long time. So the idea that now you're starting to open textbooks, if you had a separate compartment where students can go and retrieve textbooks, they would have just been easier to just take them over there. But you didn't, because there is no separate compartment where folks can receive textbooks. You didn't provide textbooks until board compliance brought it to your position. Brought it to their attention. The same thing goes for the test kits. You didn't start considering to provide routine test kits. Unfortunately, even after subsequent inspections, they still failed to provide those routine test kits. So they're not only were in violation at the time of the inspection, per the testimony that we heard with Ms. Huggins, they still continue to remain in violation. So we have met our burden under that 51%, establishing all violations of law. And by establishing all allegations, by meeting our burden for all allegations of fact, as well as all violations of law, as you can see on page 11 of your complaint, the board has made its specific requested relief. The board requests that this board takes action against Ability School of Aesthetics pursuant to NRS 644-8850 2B by revoking its cosmetology school license for no less than 1 year. It is further requested that the board will not consider for possible action reinstatement of respondent's school license until the respondent filed a formal petition to the board requesting reinstatement of the cosmetology license. It is also requested that the board takes action against respondent Ability School of Aesthetics pursuant to NRS 604-8852D by imposing an administrative fine of $1,000 for each violation for a total of $8,000. And also pursuant to NRS 622, that the board imposes the cost of the proceedings upon respondent as well as in attorney's fees and in reference to costs, including investigative costs, if discipline is otherwise imposed on the respondent. We, once again, on behalf of the petitioner, we thank you for the time and the dedication that you had towards hearing this evidence. And we believe that we have met our burden, or exceeding our burden by preponderance of the evidence, that the allegations of fact 1 through 17 have been proven, that all violations of law have been proven, and therefore request a discipline. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Mr. Kennedy, would you like to go?
Sure. So this is a case where, like when I first looked at it, what struck out at me when I read the complaint and talked to my clients and kind of looked at what we had was whether or not, did the Ability School show what I would call a deliberate indifference, a willfulness to just, we're going to operate the school however we want to and everyone else be damned. I mean, that's not what you're getting here. the violations alleged in the complaint, the 7 different claims to relief. You know, I appreciate the standards for honest the evidence, but there's also needs to be evidence of intention, of willfulness, that they willfully decided just to ignore and flagrantly just to abuse Nevada law, Nevada administrative code, and do whatever they want to do until they're caught. And you're not hearing that today at all. This school has been licensed by the board for about 2.5 years now, and has put out nearly 200 graduates into the community. And we're not hearing that there's any problem, that there's a scourge of ability school graduates out there and they're harming people. You're not hearing that. That's not before you. And any intimation of that is flat out wrong. It's not supported. You have a school that Mr. O'Hara opened. He's ran a regulated school for years, almost 12 years, runs the Pazuva Massage School. That's a school that graduates licensed massage therapists that are handled by another board here in Nevada. And so he has experience in the education field to teach these professions and to teach individuals, about the requirements under Nevada law and how to do these professions, how to do massages, how to do these cosmetology things. And he opened up the school to try to help primarily members of the Asian community, who are some where their English is not the primary, and they needed a place to go to try and learn the skill and to try and improve themselves. Many of these individuals, they come to the United States. English is definitely not even a good second language, and they struggle. They struggle with how to make a living, and they struggle with getting a job. And the cosmetology field, massage field, is something that is culturally brought up, can be something very similar to what they would do in China. But they can't just do it. They got to get licenses. They got to go through the process. They got to go to a school like Ability School, an approved school in the state of Nevada for the last 2.5 years. And that's what they've done. And they go to the school because why? Ability School offers at least one instructor who instructs in Mandarin Chinese. And that really helps out with a portion of their students who have that issue. Apparently they have other students of all races, that have no trouble with the curriculum and the program. But because they offer that, it's an enticement. It's an inducement for members of the Asian community who want this training to go to the school. You heard testimony from Mr. O'Hara and Jerry Zhu about this issue of the textbooks. I think it's a misconception to think this school has been operating for 2.5 years without a textbook. Okay, that's not the testimony. The testimony is they had textbooks from day one, and they were distributed to students along with the test kits. When you pay the enrollment fee, here's your test kit, and here's your textbook. They cost $100-something to pay for it. And these things are provided when the students start their school. So this whole idea of a photograph of textbooks being open, they had textbooks being open because they ordered some new textbooks, new books, and they ordered them, and they were all wrapped up in a box because they came from the supplier. And this instructor, Sophia Kupke, granted, clearly had some issues with how she was managing her class and her school. And, to their credit, the school got rid of her. They didn't try to defend her and try to say that, oh, well, she's a great instructor. They did have some compliments for her, but they're not here defending her at all. They took affirmative steps to get rid of her and to find new instructors who are trained and licensed, and that's what they've done. But this issue of the textbook somehow being a brand new issue, like they've operated for 2.5 years with no textbooks, is patently false. You've heard testimony from my clients that they have the textbooks. They order the textbooks. The textbooks are available. They have a set there at the school in case some students forget their textbook, and they can borrow them if they want or put them back, whether it's a library or a bookshelf. Who cares? They're there at the school. Same thing with these test kits. They're provided these test kits in the beginning, these student kits, and they're available. They have extras. That's great, because maybe you get a student who comes to school who was working all night at some job or whatever, and comes to the school and forgot their test kit. And so they need one because that day you're going to do a practical or something in the class. And so guess what? You forgot yours? Okay, oh, we got some right over here. Here, use this one today. That's what that's all about. Now, is it a violation that on the particular day, May 15, 2023, the inspector shows up and doesn't see textbooks and doesn't see test kits in the hands of students? I mean, that is as a narrow window as you can possibly imagine regarding making that a violation. Especially this issue of the textbooks, knowing that the school's been in operation for 2.5 years without a textbook is just unimaginable. And I think even the Inspector Huggins had testified, she was aware that Tricia Faust had textbooks. What, the Asian students don't get textbooks? The white people do? I mean, what is this? That's not what's going down here. They have the textbooks. They're all over the place. Everybody's got textbooks and they got student kits. This is what you find in a cosmetology school. It was just on that particular day, Sophia Kupke, for whatever reason, had not handed out the brand new textbooks. Hey, we got brand new textbooks here. Look at me, I'm opening up the package that's been sealed by the manufacturer of the books, the publisher, and shipped them out. And it's the same edition as the one they used 2 years ago. It's the same exact textbook, and it's in Chinese. Great, it helps out the Chinese students. They have this Chinese book. So I think the context of some of these alleged violations has to be considered. If you look at it in a very narrow manner and say that, oh, well, they didn't have a textbook at 11:30 in the morning when the instructor went there. I guess if you're being very precise, yeah, that's a violation at that point in time. But to say that that's how this school is run, I think is a misnomer. That's not what the evidence shows. And again, you have evidence and testimony that is contrary, that they do have these items, they do have these kids, they do have the books. It's not an issue. But apparently it was an issue enough on that particular day. And so they were cited for it. The big issue about this enrollments, the attendance records, it is an issue. It's important because the students have to show they got the 600 hours. If you don't have the 600 hours, sorry, you don't get a ticket. You don't get the license. And so it is important to document this. And it is important for, in fact, even Mr. O'Hara testified. It was so important that what did he do? He didn't hide it. He brought it to the board's attention himself in March of 2023. What does that show you? That shows you a little bit of good faith. He's trying to run the school the right way. And apparently he was advised of some issues. He's not there every day. He's there a couple times a week because he has, imagine that, another life. And he's not there every day. He's got his directors there. And it turns out that there's some students signing in now. He brings it to the board's attention. He didn't bring it to the board's attention and say, oh, here, discipline me. He brought it to the board's attention and say, hey, there's a problem here. And I don't know how to deal with this. Can you guys provide me some guidance? And he reaches out to Chief Compliance Officer Huggins, gets some guidance, gets some ideas, and they try to address it and see if something can be done to fix this problem. Unfortunately, I think that was a warning sign right there of some issues going on with Sophia Kupke's instruction. Maybe a little light went off there. And of course, a few months later, what does she do? She gets fired. A good thing. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get the wrong people there. Sometimes you get the wrong staff. This position, I heard this is about where we're blaming the teachers. I'm blaming the teachers. I mean, everybody's involved in this school. The staff's involved. Mr. O'Hara's involved. Jerry's involved as the director. Everyone has a different role here. And we're not pointing the finger at the teachers and say they're the ones that cause these problems. No, the buck stops here with the owner who's sitting over my shoulder here. He's responsible. He's admitted such. There's no downplaying here of responsibility. Again, there's no conscious disregard for the requirements of Nevada law. What there is probably at most some simple neglect on the part of Mr. O'Hara, who probably needs to be there a little bit more often and just kind of watch things a little bit better and have even more communication with Jerry about what's going on in the school. What can we do to make things better? And that's what you're hearing today. You're not hearing a man who's, I don't care, you can do what you want. He's invested in the school. He's got money in this school. He opened the school. I asked him, when you're making money or not. I mean, this is a business and he wants it to be successful. This is not some hobby. He's not just doing this for the fun of it because he's got nothing better to do. He wants to see the school to be successful. The board, I think, wants to see the school successful. You have this school listed on as the very first entry on your approved list of schools in Nevada is Ability Schools, #1. And this reflects on the board too, because we got a licensed school. We need to make them in compliance. And that's exactly what he's doing. And you see here today, testimony from my clients that they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to get guidance. If they're doing things the wrong way or need help with something, they're reaching out. They're trying to get some assistance because they want to make this work. And that's exactly what you've heard today. That what you've not heard is a flippant attitude that we don't care. The records mean nothing to us and do what you will. That's not what you're hearing here today. That willful disregard for Nevada rules, Nevada regulations, Nevada statutes. You're not hearing that. So what else do we hear today? This issue of, I want to talk about these blank documents. So, I think that there's a lot of words thrown around here about submission, okay? And then when a lot of this came out of the testimony that I had from Ms. Jackson. And, you know, the students did not submit these records. The school did not submit these records that were reviewed by Ms. Jackson in September of last year. These, you have to pay attention to that, because the argument from council is that the board, the school had these records and they just submitted them knowing that there's blank pages and incompletes and all that stuff. These are records that that were either provided directly by the board earlier in the year, or they were records that were scanned in July when some inspectors went over and scanned a whole bunch of files. And so they took a snapshot of what was in a file on that day, July, whatever, and whatever was in the file on that day, that's what they got. And guess what? Some of those records included blank sheets that the instructors who were responsible for at least maintaining the files threw in there. Why? I don't know. It just habit, procedure, routine. Some of those documents that are blank, a few pages later, you see the filled out one on the practical forms. So it's why these blank forms are put in there, who knows? Procedure, habit, routine, there's no guidance on that. There's no NAC on that. There's no NAC that says, okay, and then a student file, you got to have X, Y, and Z. It don't exist. I got news for you. It's not there. So they threw in the employee file whatever they thought was related to the employee, anything in the employee's name on it. So when the office goes through these applications for students in September and has concerns about, you know, are there records showing compliance with the schools, with the hours and all that stuff? They're looking at files that were provided months ago and that were taken at a time that students were still right in the middle of their courses, right in the middle of their training and instruction. Of course, they're going to be incomplete. I asked this several times, and I know there was some pushback on it, but when the board saw all those 4 or 5 students or whatever, those records that we went over for a long time, Exhibit I, the board, at least the office of the board that handles this and reviews these applications, when I asked them, Ms. Jackson about, well, if you have problems with these, why didn't you just reach out to the board and say, hey, I'm Connie Wright. It's, you know, where's the proof of this or that she did to the school and you got these blank forms in here. That kind of short email, that short phone call never happened. But what they did was they took records from a snapshot in time from 2 or 3 months ago, as though that's the entirety of their file. That's not the entirety of their file. And when I asked what is submitted, when you go do an application, you just fill out the form and you attach a couple of the items. Apparently, I was trying to get at was, do you attach proof that you had graduated, like a transcript or something like that? Apparently, that's not even, or at least it wasn't in September, part of the application. You put on there where you finished the school, you've got the hours, and then the board tries to do whatever processing they do. But if the board had these concerns, and I understand there are thousands of licensees, and it's like, well, we don't have time for all this stuff. But wait a minute here. This is the regulatory body. You have to have time for this stuff. This is what you do. Okay, you regulate. This board regulates the cosmetology profession. And part of the regulation is making sure licensed cosmetologists meet the requirements under Nevada law, and including those who are applying for that. And if there was a problem with Connie Wright's file or Maylou's file about her education history, or did she do the right hours or whatever, there's absolutely no evidence that there was any reach out to the board. You know, what's up with this file here? It doesn't contain the right information. And they have this information, but it's this lack of communication with the board saying, with the office of I guess the director's office saying, you know, we're not going to make time to inquire. We got too many of these applications. We don't have time for this. I mean, that can't be the response. If there's an issue about education or whether a student's application meets the criteria, there is a certain amount of investigation that's involved. But what happened here was the investigation was of copies made months ago that were from at one point in time. There was no effort to determine whether the students had actually finished these classes or not. And it could have been a simple phone call, it could have been a simple email. Hey, we need the time records on Connie Wright, which apparently were provided. There was an exhibit we showed about that from Trisha James, aka Trisha Faust. But we wanted to see the curriculum showing that Connie Wright did all these classes. It could easily be an asked for, and it wasn't. Now, the statement argue is that, well, that's not That's not on us, it's on the school. I get it. The school does have obligations, but how are they supposed to know? There's no reading of minds here. It's not osmosis between this ability school and the board about concerns you may have. We're trying to read minds with this. They want to comply. They want that they, ability school needs these students to get their licenses. Because it's real simple. If students can't get licensed, they're not going to go to the school. And they're going to call up the school and complain. And they're going to want their money back. And they're going to tell other people, don't go to ability school, you can't get your license. So believe me, ability school is motivated to make sure that all the requirements are satisfied because it's good for them, it's good for the students, it's good for the board. So anyway, what else I want to talk about here? And they're rambling on here. I think the question here, I guess the bigger picture is what do you do? It's easy to say, hey, we don't like what the school is doing. We're done with you guys. Goodbye. Your license is revoked. You have the authority under Nevada law to take a lot of action, a number of actions here. Even if you find violations, you've got to decide, well, does it warrant discipline? And if so, it's not mandatory. The language is may, not shall. You may impose certain discipline under the statute. And the question is, what do you do? Do you do nothing? Do you impose a fine? Do you revoke the license, suspend the license? I think, given that you heard today from Nathan O'Hara and Jerry Zhu that they want to make this work, they're not throwing their hands up in the air and just saying, forget this. They want to do this. They want this thing to work. I think the right thing to do, and I hope you will consider, even if you find the violations, if you could find the violations and still say, okay, we're not going to shut the school down. I would ask you to consider a probationary term for this school. How would that look like? I would envision if you decide on a probationary term of 6 months, maybe 9 months, with certain stipulations about, we've argued today that we've got proof of all these records. Well, okay, they show proof of all these records for these 5 students and anyone else that's necessary, all the students. And they show the updated records. Because, there's been no communication between the school and the board since September, if not before that. Because the lawyers get involved and then nobody wants to talk. But put them on probation, let them show what they need to show. They have no problem doing that and show their compliance. And any other hoops you want them to join. Give them an opportunity here because they are showing a willingness to comply. And if they are doing that, why not give them a chance? They have no prior disciplinary history. We've never been here before, thank God, right? All day. They've never been here before. They've never had any disciplinary hearings against them. We're asking you to give them a shot, give them a chance. Okay, not a chance just to keep working, but a chance to show they can do this. They can do this. This is not brain surgery. They can make this thing work. They can make the school work, this investment, this business work. They can make it happen. And so I would ask you to consider, if you do find violations, probationary term, and throw in a 6-month administrative review. And between now and that time, you go through and you check on the school, make sure what they're doing, whatever conditions you require, they satisfy. And if on 6 months, we don't have another here, it's an administrative review. The board put it on one of your agendas and see if they have indeed complied with what you may propose. And if so, then they're off probation and they just stay licensed. But if after 6 months, we're still having the same concern, then it's done, it's over. Then they had their shot. And so we're asking you to consider that. And again, I thank you for your time this afternoon. Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, closing arguments are finished. So thank you for making your cases. I think both councils did a great job. It's our duty now to deliberate. So we will have as a board an opportunity to discuss what we've heard today, come to a decision. Would we be able to make sure that Bill and Jennifer are unmuted so they could participate in the conversation as well?
Hi.
Hello. Nope, try again.
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you both. So we're gonna start the deliberation process, which is basically no different than any other petition that we would hear. So we can go ahead and get started. Does anyone have anything they want to say first?
I didn't heard enough.
You heard enough?
I mean, it was good. I mean, it was bad, it was good.
Right? I can start. I like to talk. That's cool. I like to start with my positives first. So let's talk about kind of what I feel was a positive from today. I definitely feel like the owners came here and the registrar came here and they took accountability. We heard admissions, we heard you know, them admitting where they were falling short, and that definitely helped me in particular on kind of feeling out some other questions that I might have had, and I thought that was a positive. I think it would have been really easy to come in here and been like, no, like I didn't know this, I didn't do this, play more of the blame game than what we might have witnessed. I think that also in addition to that, another positive for me was that there seems to be a true concern for what was going on. I think that we witnessed that with the removal of the instructor. I think that there is definitely a willingness to learn, to grow, an interest in doing the right things. I think that we see that not only in the initial March email, but also in the communication. That'll tie into maybe like a concern for me as well, but we can talk about that next. And then another positive I have to say was that, you know, Mr. O'Hara already owns a licensing school. So he does have experience in this, which means that he does have the ability to understand how to do it. But I also do agree with what Dag Harris said. It is not our responsibility to teach. It is, you know, we have to remember, excuse me, the regs and laws are set there because they're for everybody to understand. And I think that it's one thing to ask for assistance, but it's quite another to really have to be handheld into everything. And I think that some of my concerns would be definitely the checks and balances on that. Like there's just no way of knowing with the hours that we saw and the blank timesheets. I would have loved to maybe have seen some evidence from the school as to proving those differently, not just in the time clocks, but maybe like in the hours specifically dedicated to those, you know, categories that we were looking for. I just think that there's a little bit of like lack of knowledge on proper protocols or standards, like for maybe this industry, because the removal of the document that I brought up, but not having one in place to put in those hours for those categories, like we definitely need that. So definitely need some education on that. But again, we have to ask, is that our responsibility to teach, or, you know, the board, the staff to teach, or that's kind of laid out, that should have been followed already. Another concern was definitely like cat's away, mice will play situation. I don't know if you guys caught that too. Kind of what it feels like, which still any business you'll have that in. So, but I think it got a little out of hand because there's a lack of checks and balances, like who's watching who in this situation. And that becomes our problem or our concern because we're licensing these folks. And so if, you know, they're not doing what they need to be doing on the time that they are there, that can be a real safety concern once they get out there. I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm just really not able to verify compliance based on the exhibits that were presented and kind of what we discussed as far as like what I just said also, like with the categories and the hours. I mean, even their backup system had discrepancies, which can happen. I mean, it's human error, but I'm just saying like, it's not that long that we're looking at, right? We're looking at like what, March to September? Like that's, I'm terrible at math. Was that like 6 months? You know, we can put our thumb down for 6 months, I think, in any type of situation. And we were still seeing a few discrepancies here and there. And I just really didn't feel like there was like a leader in the situation, like to ensure compliance with the time records and education topics. Like it was definitely like a lot put on the instructors, but the instructors were taught how to do it by the other instructors who maybe weren't doing it right. So again, it's kind of like this situation that, you know, we have the school ability, which has the option of, or the lack of a different word, ability to be a great school and provide a great service for a community that might not be represented well in other education schools. But are they actually doing an ultimate disservice by not doing the things that we need them to do to be in compliance?
Well, one of the things is that when I asked, do the students know it's their responsibility to sign their cards and to get ready for this graduation? And the answer was yes.
Mhm.
But yet nothing was signed and
Yeah.
nothing was And he took on, he was overseeing everything, but yet he wasn't.
Right, we didn't see any of those signatures anywhere on the documents that were provided.
Right.
And even if they were not finalized, even if they were in the middle of, their schooling, I think Mr. Sue stated that they meet every Monday, but I didn't see any corrections next to the E, no signatures or anything like that. And if that was the case, there should have been signatures on those, at least the edited ones, right? Not to mention all the hourly ones, so.
And another concern to me is, when you asked how many students do they have enrolled? They have 12, but they have many more enrolled, but they don't even know where they're at. That's a concern for me. Are they just are these people, students who have enrolled, they've already paid their money, and thank you for the money, but I don't care where you're at.
It definitely could be that. I'm gonna have to say I have a complete opposite opinion on that. I feel like these are two very nice gentlemen, and I feel like it's cat's away, mice play situation. And I don't feel like there's any control, like I'm leading with an iron fist. These are the policies, these are the protocols that we need to abide by. You have this much time in school. We all went to school. Shoot, even Miss Wold, our public member, went to school. She's licensed as well. So we've all been there. We all had regulations to follow. We all knew that if we missed and we went outside of these hours or a lot of time that, X, Y, and Z would happen. I just feel like it's not very structured. And again, that's where the big concern is, because if it's not structured, then how do we know theory is structured? How do we know they're educating in sanitation is what they should be getting? Lasers, all the other stuff. I mean, I don't even want, I don't even want to talk about the advanced stuff.
They like regroup, their staff, so they put more people in place that they can feel that they can rely on
Mhm,
since they got rid of Miss Sophia.
mhm. And more checks and balances,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah, sorry, this is board member Jeffers. Just to piggyback on that, I think my number one concern was the lack of time, like they have the clock in, clock out for the 600 hours. But like we're talking about those subcategories, because I remember being in school and being like, I need 2 more hours of waxing. I need this many more. And if we're not keeping track of that, come the 600 hours, it's like, what did they learn? What I guess that's where the ball is really being dropped for me, is like, I'm really concerned, what are they actually learning?
Absolutely. I think you throw in there a language barrier with some of the students, and it becomes even harder to answer that question.
Yeah.
Bill, did you have something?
Board Member William.
Sorry.
I also applaud both the gentlemen for their time. Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so my voice is a little bit gone. That's why I'm not there. I didn't want to give everybody else my cold. There was something that was mentioned by Mr. O'Hara in the very beginning that in their journey of developing this school and this program, because he had done massage schools before, he had a license for that. He said that both he and Mr. Zhu had to spend time and go over what it was like and what it required to be a cosmetology school. And in that research, if he was researching that, and both of them, some of the issues that came up today, they should have known about in developing the school and the guidelines, when they were thinking about opening this school. And I heard some conflicting comments that they weren't aware of this, but if they initially had spent that time in the beginning looking at this, they should have known about some of these issues ahead of time. And that was a little bit concerning for me. But
Absolutely.
I
Sorry.
agree with you on there just seems to be some leadership and lack of knowledge and some checklists that we normally would all have in a business that would be constantly being checked off in a file so that that file is complete. That checklist should always be in there. And I wasn't hearing that addressed either.
Absolutely. Great points. I don't know about any of you guys, but I've actually looked into opening a school before, and there's a lot of guidelines. There's a lot of regulations. There's a lot to it. Space is huge. It's overwhelming. There's a lot that goes into it. It takes a lot of organization and a lot of checks and balances to make sure that it not only starts out, gets under, review, gets out of review, where they can open. But that's not where it stops. Like, obviously, the school didn't just open in March, like. I mean, it's been open for 2 years,
Yeah,
so.
good staff
This is,
also.
this is a recent issue, I believe. I know Ms. Huggins had mentioned that there was a letter or something sent out a little while ago, back in 2021, of a potential violation. There was, Mr. O'Hara didn't recollect that, but there was something that might have been that happened, but it got rectified, right? So this is all relatively newish. Maybe it's surrounding the instructor, but again, it goes right back down to checks and balances.
Yes.
So, I don't know, maybe we should just start talking about what we see in the future. Do I think that these two gentlemen could potentially get it together and make this happen? I do, because they already run a school. How do we get them to that point, I think, is what we need to start discussing. I don't think any of this was done as a money grab, maliciously. I don't think this was done to allow students to clock in and go to lunch. And I mean, we know schools that do that. Yeah, we've already done that. But I do think that the areas where they need to improve on to get into compliance and to make us have trust in them again are things that maybe the board staff aren't really responsible for doing. And then we need to see if that's something that these gentlemen can do on their own. And again, I'm kind of conflicted because yes, I have already, but then I'm also like, well, you already know what to do. Why weren't you doing it?
Right.
Why did it slip? Like, is this a representation of what's going to happen in the future?
But anytime you open up any kind of business, you need to do your research
Mhm.
on what it's gonna be especially if it's not your industry.
Mhm.
And massage is totally different from cosmetology.
Totally.
And maybe they can
I
go
agree.
back and read, do you guys, when people try to open up a school, do you guys give them a pamphlet, like, as far as like guidelines?
I don't think we can, I don't think they can answer.
Oh,
We gotta direct it to our
Oh,
friend,
sorry.
Mr. Feely over here.
I don't think they should answer.
Mhm.
oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a little different than a petition. We have to,
Oh,
yeah.
It just goes back to, again, you open up a business, I want to open up a restaurant, but I never even been in a restaurant or, I know nothing about it. But I'm gonna hire this guy who told me, oh, I've ran a restaurant
Right.
before. I'm just gonna take him by his word
Right.
and not follow through like, there's bells going off here.
Mhm.
And even though they've been open for 2.5 years, they just sadly, they approached. They probably didn't think that this was gonna blow up the way it's blown up.
right.
We don't
Going
know in
by-
the past 2 years,
Yeah,
how many was already being checked in and those hours really accountable.
and what Mr. Kennedy said, Mr. O'Hara probably do need to go in more than twice a week, to see how your business is
It's your
being ran.
investment.
So I don't think we can actually like address them or
Oh,
we
okay.
gotta talk to ourselves. It's okay, we're just in deliberation here. I know we like good eye contact, it's polite manners, but we're gonna keep it up here.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
Board Member Harris, you were gonna say something to, Ms. Jenny, do you wanna say it right here? To us? No, Board Member Harris.
Douglas.
Oh, I'm sorry, Douglas. My bad.
But I would like to say something.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, you go and then
So, okay,
bring what you
I'm
said.
board member
Sorry.
Harris, yes, and just to say, okay, we've had so many months when the compliance team contacted you. We asked you several times, and it's not our job to hold anyone's hand. Like we said, we're all licensed, we are licensed people. And it was my responsibility to go and check my hours. It's my responsibility to go and say, what am I doing? It's my responsibility. If the board needs my hours, I need them on a paper where everybody can see. Not hidden, not the second one, not this one, but you had more than enough time to rectify the problem, and I still didn't hear anything. To me, you're in violation of all 7 counts. So it's like, when do you get it right? Right? Love that you're helping the community. Love that, like you say, we need people. We want everybody to succeed in this industry. I'm just not sure when you're gonna get it. Because I'm still, yeah. From what I heard and what I've seen, I'm just not sure. So, yeah, just to piggyback on everything everybody else said, I'm just conflicted with that. It's just like, you want to help, you can't hold your hand all the time. We all have to be responsible for all our actions, period. And then hopefully this hearing will help you to maintain your school. You gather a lot of things up here and say, oh, we need to do this, this, and this, not 2 and 3 papers, not blank sheets, not, oh, they were supposed to do it. When you own the school, it's your baby. It's your business. And all the students under you are your babies and you're to take care of them. Right? So that's where I'm at on it.
Well, going back to, student success is because of the school success. And if the school is not giving them what they need, then they're not gonna be
Yeah,
successful.
too much
in the
confusion.
industry.
It's just, yeah, too much confusion.
Jennifer, did you have something?
Yeah, I just was thinking like of the options that have kind of been laid out, and so like the closure for a year, like, would that be a hard reset for the school to like figure it out, come up with a system, get whatever they need implemented in their fundamentals of the school? If they do the 6-month probation, like that was the other thing that was presented to us, could they, with the school operating, with students, with everything they've had on their plate, could they really revamp? I don't know, like, because they haven't revamped. I don't know.
Right, same thing, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with the closure or a revamp, do they
Yeah.
have the ability to get into compliance if they don't know what they don't know?
Right,
And is it the board's duty to teach them what they don't know? I don't think it
it's not.
is.
right, like how much work would that be on the board staff? Like, what does
Impossible.
probationary work look like, you
Well,
know?
and what precedent would that set for future?
Right, for other schools and everything.
And I think it was Dag Harris that, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I think it was Dag Harris that stated, you know, anything that the board does as far as outside of communication via petitions, et cetera, is out of the courtesy of the board's part. And, you know, we as a current board have really been focusing on communication and helping and all the things, but there is a point where we have to be like, you know, this is your responsibility.
Yeah,
So it does come down to, you know, what action do we take? And would the respondent be able to get into compliance in that time frame on its own, essentially?
yeah,
Because it has to fly on its own anyway. We can't keep overseeing it. This isn't the Board of Cosmetology school.
Right.
right.
And also what happens to the current students that are enrolled right now?
Yeah.
To current students.
There's a lot of factors, not only that, but there's lease, there's bills, there's all of that. And I know that's not something that we are responsible for, but it is something that the school is responsible for. And if we expect it to reopen in a year in compliance, and that is, you know, good not only for us, the community and the school, I think that that should be also something that is thought about for a little bit.
Hmm.
So these are heavy decisions. Do we want to take it line by line? What are they called?
Violation.
What are they called?
You can do it
Claims?
as a group, I guess, or make, anyone of you can make a motion to use some of all of them as a group, or if there's any dispute over some of them, you can go one by one.
Okay. Is there any dispute that any of the claims were not proven? Do we want to discuss them individually or make it like a group? A group? Okay.
Somebody just needs to make a motion that the state has met their burden or not.
Okay.
Yes. I think they have.
I think that
William, Jennifer, do you think that you guys are able to vote on a motion for the claims as a whole?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can-
Yes, okay. Can I please at this time get a motion for the first motion on factual allegations, please?
This is Board Member Harris. I would like to make a motion. All the. Oh, I will, I move we find factual allegations 1 through 5 as proven,
Oh, 1 through 7.
1 through 7 as proven to stand factual.
Okay.
I second the
Was that good
motion,
enough?
William.
Who will suffice?
Is that good enough?
Should we reword it?
I reworded this a little bit, yeah.
Okay, do you want to say it again?
Okay, Board Member Harris, I moved, we find factual allegations 1 through 7 as proven.
Can I get a second?
I
Board
second
Member
it,
Doug-
William.
I'm sorry, the factual, is it 1 through 7 or 1 through 17? I'm
Right.
sorry.
117?
Yeah.
117?
Yeah.
17. So that's the whole thing. Okay, so not just
Readmission.
the 7 claims. Okay.
Okay, readmission.
Start again.
All right.
Take three.
Again, we are not
Okay, right.
lawyers.
Okay, Board Member Harris, I move, we find factual allegations 1 through 17 as proven.
Can I get a second?
I, William, second it, board member.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, I would like to now make a second motion, that we, I would like to ask for a motion for the alleged violations of law 1 through 17.
Yeah, this one is 1 through 7, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay.
1 through 7. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
1 through 7.
Okay. Board Member Harris, I move that we find. I move. We find the alleged violation of law 1 through 7
Board Member Douglas,
as proven.
Can I get a second?
Board Member Douglas, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, at this time, we are going to move on to the penalty phase. Because we did find, majority of the board found a violation and it carried, we now need to discuss the recommended discipline. I do want to remind the board that we can follow the recommended discipline, make edits or disregard the recommendation altogether and make its own penalty. We have, recommendations made by both Doug Harris and, Mr. Kennedy. And then we will need a motion to put this into effect as well.
Okay.
We have on page 11, relief sought. And then again, Mr. Kennedy's recommendation as well. So if we want to. Yes, William? Or was that just a grunt?
It was a sigh, I'm thinking.
Okay.
Right.
You're allowed. Yeah.
I think the fine should stay. The fine should go into place, the fine.
The fines,
I think it should,
yeah.
Yes.
and that's pretty.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one. It's very straightforward. It makes the most sense. So when we make the motion, we have to include each part of this that's included, right?
Yeah.
So
I
they'll
would-
have
I would
to lay out
recommend it
the-
to. So, yeah, I would
Okay.
just recommend what the ultimate relief sought is, or,
And stipulate each thing that it is.
yeah.
Like, so we
whether-
could just
whether you
say a
wanna-
total of
whether
this
you
or
wanna
for the-
revoke or not, or whether you want to do, yeah,
Okay, so for this in particular, should we say
yes, 1,000 for each.
for each, for a total of?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. We, I was just
Yeah.
asking. Yeah, sorry.
Restaurant to do.
How do we feel about,
When to speak up, like speak one at a time, because I didn't understand what you just said.
Sorry.
You guys are kind of talking over there and that's. not
I apologize,
so.
sorry.
I was asking for clarification on the verbiage for the motion, what it needed to entail, whether it be just the overall amount or if we needed to break it down in proper verbiage for each violation. And then I was told what to do. Okay, so I think we're in agreement on the fines, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that part we can move on from. What are we feeling about relief sought under section A? Currently, what was recommended by Doug Harris was no less than a year for revoking the licensure. Probationary period of 6 to 9 months was also brought up by Mr. Kennedy. Jennifer brought a good point. How is that gonna look with students? But then the other option or the other alternative point to that is, what does that look like for the students if school's closed for 12 months.
Right.
So,
But also, what does it look like for new students enrolling? And they're not in compliance after 6 months?
yeah.
Like you said, I know Mr. Kennedy addressed that, we can put them on suspension.
Yeah.
Can't hear that.
Speak up.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I can't hear you.
Mr. Kennedy, I know also said that maybe we can put them on suspension. That sounds good instead of like actually closing.
What does
No.
suspension mean to you?
I say 6 to 9 months.
I'm sorry. I can't.
I'm sorry, 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months of what?
Suspension or probation?
Oh, probation. I'm sorry. Yeah, probation.
Probation entailing like communication with like board, like access to record. I mean, we kind of already have.
Yeah, like,
board can go in whenever they want.
Huggins and them went out there and kind of like, not spied on them, but, just went out there to see if they were, doing properly what they're supposed to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think their files need to be done in real time. I think that's a big problem. So if it was probation, which the other board member was just discussing, I think if the files were updated in real time and we could, they would be, I think that's the biggest problem is it's like, oh, we fill them out later.
Mhm.
And there's
I
no checks
agree.
and balances. So if they were to stay open, it would have to be like, your files are done in real time. There's a way that you're tracking your theory hours, your waxing hours. And then I meant to ask this, do they work on the public?
I would assume so as a requirement, but I did
Okay,
not see
so-
any mention of that. We don't have the categories filled out, so. can't
Yeah,
really-
so I mean,
Yeah.
they would have to be such a rehaul of their
Mhm.
foundation.
So it
But-
brings up your original point. Is this something they're able to do while still operating a school with students that are
Yeah,
requiring time and
yeah,
attention while still revamping a school?
right.
So would this be more like a reset for them? And they got 6 months to get it together?
I think that's what the petitioners were hoping for, is a reset. I think a true reset would be something where it is shut down, but is that a year length of time?
I would say 6 months, at least.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, shorter.
Yeah.
I feel they can get it together, like they said, he already owns a school,
Yeah.
so, I mean,
They already know what they've done wrong.
right.
William, did you have something?
I think I agree with the 6-month shutdown, because instead of being a full year, they can reset in 6 months and make sure this is gonna work for them, and real time is exactly one of the notes I had on my
Mhm.
here, so I agree with that. Instead of
I
that year,
agree.
that seems like a long time, a year.
Yeah, I know we've been here a long time, but I'm very detail oriented. I would like to even put in there like what we want to see changed at that
Yes.
6-month time mark.
I agree.
When, and then, and they have to come before the board to petition. We need to see like all the things that they have in place. I want to see checks and balances, who's checking up on who, systems in place. That way this doesn't happen again.
Yes.
Anything else?
And
I agree.
they're-
For them to be successful.
Yeah, they're also on a lease, correct?
Yeah.
Of the building?
Yeah.
I would assume so. I heard the word landlord, so I would assume lease. Yeah.
Yeah.
So perhaps maybe 3 months. So 6,
I mean,
you should be able, they're already on the roll of what to do.
I think if we give them a guideline, I think that they could probably do it a lot quicker. The things that they need to fix are, I don't want to take away from the severity of it, but are things that are very simple to do. It's things that they already should have had in place and probably already had in place when applying to get the school license.
Exactly.
They just need to get back to that.
Yeah,
So I do feel like it could be done in a shorter time frame than a year or 6 months.
yeah, because.
But I also don't want to take away from that this is not okay.
Right, that's
Right.
correct.
But I also don't want to impose such a
The thing is.
burdens on them
they
with a
might just
lease
need
and.
to look into other schools and mirror what those. other
Absolutely,
schools are doing
absolutely.
in order to get it right.
It might be a mentorship situation where they need to reach out and find somebody that can assist. I mean, there's other schools that have been doing it for a long time.
Relying on an instructor.
I just think
Yeah.
they just need to do what they're supposed to do because it was in the
Yeah.
files. The papers are there that we needed to see. They just need to be filled out.
Right.
Yeah, because to me, when you just constantly spending money and you're not making money, sometimes that's a setback.
Yep.
So 6 months and then come back to the board.
3 months, she recommended.
I'm thinking I think they can do it in 3 months.
I'm gonna say 6.
That's it.
3.
Okay, William?
I'm
What's
gonna
your
say
thoughts?
3. I want to try and give these guys a chance. I liked how they really put themselves out there today and they're looking at it. And I agree.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer?
Yeah, I feel like 90 days, they could get their systems in order, so 3 months. And, but they have to come back and talk to us before they obviously open
Mhm.
again, and if it's, we gotta really hear the system in place.
Okay.
Absolutely. I am sorry. I do think that quite long. I do agree with 90 days. But I'm only going off of their background with the other school, the fact that they've already passed compliance once. I think that they have what they needed in here. They just got away from it. They put the responsibility on others.
And just
Clean up.
They gotta clean it up.
They'll find a mentor to help them get this up and going.
Yeah.
Within 3 months.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a time frame for, what are we calling this?
Probation.
Yeah.
Probation?
90
All right.
probation.
Probation with no instruction, right? With students on
Correct.
probation?
Closing?
Yes,
Okay.
for the 3
For
months.
3 months.
Yes,
Are they,
Suspension.
is that,
Suspension.
it's a suspension.
I just wanna make sure.
3 months suspension.
Thank you, sorry.
Sorry.
3
3
months
months.
suspension.
Okay.
Suspension.
Okay. And then what do we want to see at petition? When they come before the board to get reinstated?
The whole
I'd
platform.
like to see a
Yeah,
business
yeah.
profile of how they're going to move through each of these items that were part of their violation today.
Yeah,
Take a
our
look at this and use it
violation.
as a checklist and say, okay, here's where we had problems. Let's bring a new approach to this and then we can see that in its general content.
Okay, so do we treat this like any other opening?
Yeah, like a fresh
I
start.
would, yeah.
Yeah.
Fresh start.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay. You want to say 3 months? Okay.
Get to go.
okay.
There's no cheap those things on that.
All right, do any board members have anything else that they would like to say at this time before we make this final consider again?
I would like to say good luck in the future, sirs.
See you in 3 months.
I mirror that. Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, then at this time, I would like to call for a motion, please. I'd like a call for a motion on the penalty. Okay,
Well, they're asking.
Am I gonna read the whole?
you gotta do all of it.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep,
No.
yep, just take it line by line. Mhm.
What-
And then,
B, right?
yeah, just.
Okay. Board Member Douglas, I'd like to make a motion to uphold the $8,000 for ability esthetician school. The board takes action against respondent ability school of esthetician pursuant to NRS 644A.850 by imposing an administrative fine up to 1,000 for each violation of NRS 644A for the total administrative fine of $8,000.
Board Member Harris, I second that motion.
Nope, we gotta do the suspension, so you gotta add the suspension in there.
Oh, okay. Board Member Douglas, I would like to uphold the suspension for the $8,000 fine. That's it.
No.
The 3 months.
3 months.
Oh,
3
what-
months.
uphold the suspension for 3 months of ability school of esthetician.
Now, can we clarify, after the 3 month suspension, you also have to clarify that, are they immediately allowed to go into operations the next day? Or
I think that they-
First.
Yeah, just clarify that they have to come before the board.
Oh, Board Member Douglas, ability school of esthetician would have to come before the board before they can open up to show proof that they have completed
All the violations.
all the violations.
Get everything.
To get everything in order to open.
No,
Is that right?
it could be cleaned up a little bit, I suppose, but I understood that
Okay.
stating that it was $1,000 per violation for $8,000 and a 3-month suspension, and they have to come before the board. There's any,
With their plan.
No, just come before the board, I think, right?
With their reopening plan.
Oh, with the reopening plan.
With their reopening.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
Okay. All right. Can I please get a second?
Board Member Harris, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Ken, I'm sorry. Mr. Kennedy, do you understand what the
Yes,
motions
yes,
were and
I
everything?
do, I
Okay,
do,
cool.
I
I know they were clunky. Sorry about that.
sorry,
Okay, awesome. And then,
there was one more issue.
yes,
Well, I mean, first I need to hear a motion if the board is willing to award petitioner attorney's fees and costs. So I need to know if there's that motion. But beforehand, what I'm willing to do is this out. Sorry, I'm still probably have to share it. with
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Let's probably hold that too. Let's copy this. Make a motion.
We have to do the point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll say this out loud, because I know we also have folks joining us remotely. So attached are, we'll first start off with board costs. As of date of this hearing, the board has accrued approximately $3,337.09 in board costs. However, that doesn't include any of the board costs that we anticipate coming from the court reporter, as well as any other costs that may have been accruing today. So we are asking for the board to, especially knowing that we anticipate that there might be additional costs. We are asking that the board award additional costs not exceeding $10,000 pursuant to NRS 622. Now, do I think the board cost is gonna be anywhere near 10,000? No. But I do feel that, pursuant to NRS 622, the board can vote on a cap. But as of right now, we're respectfully requesting board costs, at least under that cap.
Okay. Board members, do we have any questions or deliberation? Pretty straightforward. Okay. Can I make a motion to, how do I word that? I'm sorry.
To approve the payment of attorney's fees,
No, it's costs.
costs.
It's costs.
Okay, can I make a motion to approve the attorney, the
Cost.
the cost?
Board costs.
Board
Board
Member
cost.
Harris, okay. Board Member Harris, I approve the cost of all attorney fees. No
Cost.
one there.
No.
Oh, cost. Oh, okay, what is it? What is it?
Attorney costs.
No.
Right?
Board costs.
Board cost,
Board
board
costs.
cost.
Board
Board
cost.
costs.
Board
And it
Member,
would be board costs not to exceed 10 grand. 10,000.
okay. Board Member Harris, I would like to move to accept,
To approve.
the board, the
board
payment not to exceed $10,000 of board cost.
This Board Member Douglas, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And next is also included is the attorney's fees. So included for your reference, as of date, attorney's fees have now accrued up to $4,671.94. Again, we're only asking pursuant to NRS 622 for a cap of attorney's fees to not exceed $10,000.
Okay, now I need to make a motion.
Same thing,
For the
but
same
times
thing.
eight.
Attorney. Got it. All right, can I please get a motion to approve the attorney's fees not to exceed 10,000?
It's Board Member Douglas. I would like to approve the attorney fees for $4,671.
Nope, nope, nope.
Not to exceed.
Oh,
Make a motion to accept the attorney's fees not to exceed 10,000.
this is Board Member Douglas. I would like to accept the fees that, the attorney fees not to exceed no more than $10,000.
Can I get a second?
Board Member Harris, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries.
Through that.
So we're done on this. Is that right? Are we done?
Yes.
Yes, we are finished.
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, we got it.
we have to adjourn. Yeah, we're not finished. Yeah,
Comments, you'll-
yeah. Okay, good luck, Mr. O'Hara. We appreciate your time.
Good luck, Mr. O'Hara.
Okay, the board is not finished. We have to now go to agenda letter F, please. We need to go to comments from the general public for discussion only. The board will entertain comments from the general public for any item that is related to the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology. Members of the public can call into the meeting to make public comments by dialing 1-720-707-2699 and entering 865-6957-7676 for meeting ID. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. No discussion or action can be taken during public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Yes.
Okay, can you please state your name for the record?
Hi, my name is Natalia Aubrian.
Hi, go ahead. You have 3 minutes for your public comment.
I wanted to say that I attended the ability school. I was one of the first classes. I had a different set of teachers. I had 2 textbooks, a workbook. I had a chart with all of my stuff. My teachers and Nathan and Jerry were wonderful to me. They were very respectful of my learning style because I don't learn by reading. I have to listen to the book. I ended up getting a 97 or 95 on my theory. I feel very confident in my skills. I've been hired every place I've auditioned, and I became an instructor under Trisha Faust and Sophia Kopke. And because they were the teachers when I did my instructor thing. And I just want to say that I think if you give these guys a chance, that they could get it together. They are good people. I had a great experience at the school. And for every student who's cheating the system, there's a bunch of us who are really passionate about doing this and doing it well. And if you want to do that, the school can give you the opportunity to do that. So that's all. Thank you.
That was a great public comment. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? All right, if there's no more public comments at this time, I would like to open it up to agenda item G, comments from the board members. We're talked out. All right. Duly noted. All right, then I would like to call for adjournment if possible. Okay, perfect. Then we are adjourned. The time is 5:25 p.m. on the dot, and it is January 8th, 2024. So thank you so much for your time today.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy New
Bye.
Year.